a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality. A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this episode, James Iandoli. He is the host and creator of Engaging the Phenomenon, a phenomenal channel and a wonderful resource for UFO disclosure, any kind of information along those lines. He's had such people on his show as Greg Cameron, Luis Elizondo, Richard Dolan several times, Jacques Vallée, Paula Harris. So all of the who's who in ufology, this dude is connected with and is able to get the real scoop and to really pick their brains on the research that they've been doing for decades. So without any further ado, guys, make sure that you check out the show notes in the bottom description down there for all the links to find James as well as this show. And let's get to the conversation, guys. This is an awesome one. Without any further ado, James Iandoli. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming to the show this very special episode from Engaging the Phenomenon. We have James Iandoli. How are you, brother?
I'm doing awesome, man. I see you got my name right.
Yeah, we were laughing about it before. I like to ask just to be sure or whatever. I want everybody to be comfortable. I don't want to be that guy, that can't pronounce names. So, dude, so good to see you, brother. We had talked about doing one of these a while back. Cards finally aligned, man, and here we are. So you run an incredible show called Engaging the Phenomenon. I will put, of course, all of the ways to find you in the show description down there, so you guys just go check that out. So what got you started with the show, brother?
Oh, man. Well, you know what? Engaging the Phenomenon is actually something like a culmination of all my work and ideas and kind of my own evolution into investigating the UFO subject and consciousness and kind of everything that goes with that. I got started early on kind of studying UFOs and metaphysics because I had my own contact experiences. And through that, I got involved in CE5, which, the term CE5 itself has become somewhat of has its own stigma because of its relationship to Dr. Stephen Greer, who is now more than ever a controversial character. But I got heavily involved in CE5 and the CE5 initiative, and I created the first CE5-based social networking groups. And I've actually been pretty publicly involved with the UFO issue since that time. So around 2009, 2010 is when I became more publicly involved, and I had some different projects over the years, but Engaging the Phenomenon is the culmination and like blending of all my ideas and work and experience up to this point.
Well, it's a fantastic show, man, and you do some incredible work, which we are going to get into, but I got to say this about you, man, and this for all the listeners, for my audience that isn't familiar with you, man, you are the, nicest guy in the world. You're like the UFO sweetheart. I just coined that term for you, so T-shirts to be coming out soon, probably. So everybody, you're like Brent Rains. Do you know who Brent Rains is?
I don't.
Oh, my God, I've got to connect you two. Y'all are he's like your future self. So he's like you in 5 years, dude. So anyway, y'all are both just so sweet. You have phenomenal reputations, and your research is impeccable. You draw people to you that are so influential in the field. You had Jacques Vallée on your 5th episode with Paula Harris. I mean, just the way that you are, like I said, nobody has anything bad to say about you, including myself, man. I think you're one of the nicest people I've ever gotten to talk to. So thank you again for your time. So for my audience that doesn't know you, how do you cultivate a reputation such as yours? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, if you want to know the secret, it's pure luck.
Just like Brent. He said the same thing. He was like, "Oh, I'm mailing them their check." You guys are just humble.
all these things, I'm just kind of caught in the, unfolding of reality as it is. You know what I mean? I'd like to think, yeah, I pushed things in this way and I did this, and but man, it's really just the way things happened. Really. I guess somewhat. Being an experiencer, in a sense, gives me some kind of boldness. Not in a negative way, because I've seen that where, sometimes people can put their ideas before others because of that. But I mean it in a way of, this, like this is kind of fun and interesting for me to do. But this is not a hobby to me. This is like a part of a life mission, as me finding answers and feeling, I guess, a sense of obligation to share it with others, because I think it's really important. And speaking about contact specifically is transformative. And the idea with, CE5 or human initiated contact events, people can have their own kind of personal disclosure of kind of knowing without a doubt that the phenomenon exists and is here. So that's kind of like on the, I guess you can say, like the experiencer side. But another thing is I'm just constant in what I do. I'm constantly reaching out to different people, and people probably know me through engaging the phenomenon, which I created the name Engaging the Phenomenon in 2018. I created a Twitter and my YouTube at that time. And I was more involved in the research community, kind of out front, instead of just like in organizing groups and stuff. But so at that time is really when people became familiar with me. But I'd been already in the game for 9 years, speaking to different researchers, making connections and networking. So I'm kind of, I've been at it a while. I've been at it a lot longer than people probably think, because they only seen me in the last few years. But, I used to be messaging with Richard Dolan back in like 2009, 2010. I'd message him, regularly. And back then he was more on social media. So he was responsive. And so I was actually talking to other researchers back then on a regular basis. And so when I came out with Engaging the Phenomenon as a project, I already had kind of a network of people I was connected with. And, they were all really cool. And, people like Grant Cameron helped me out in different ways, and Rich Dolan. And, I got a lot of people to thank for that. So.
Some heavy hitters, man, and you're absolutely right. That's how you do it. You cultivate the relationships by being engaged in them for a long time. And I love the name of your show, dude, Engaging the Phenomenon, how kinetic it is, how expressive it is, to the point to where, no, we're going after it. It's not a passive kind of a title. It's very engaging, man. I mean, so kudos, dude. And
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, it's brilliant, right? No, you're good. I was just going to praise you some more and say that, I mean, all this thing is finding a name that, is fantastic, that fits. And then other people look at it like Engaging the Phenomenon, and they're like, damn it, dude, why didn't I get that name? I actually get this with Expanding Reality. People are like, why the hell didn't I think of that? And just like you, because it wasn't for them, Engaging the Phenomenon, dope-ass title, that was for you all along, dude. You've always had it.
I appreciate that. And I like the name myself. And I was actually thinking of a name. I was playing with some ideas, and then I got Engaging the Phenomenon. And I was like, that's right. And I want to also note to people listening that, engaging the phenomenon, you can engage the phenomenon in so many different ways, by what you're doing with podcasts, by asking questions, by investigating, by blogging, by doing journalism, by making a YouTube channel or anything. Any of those are engaging the phenomenon. You're just engaging it in your own way. And I think, the UFO phenomenon is kind of like one of those global issues where, like, it's going to take all of us to understand this, and probably a long time too. So, we need people that are like in, academia, scientists, even though, people may criticize them for being skeptics, they help in certain ways too. Right. They help us sharpen our tool set, so to speak, because they ask good questions. And like a skeptic will ask a question, and I'm like, oh wait, that's a good idea, and you got to make sure you have what you're saying in line for the most part. So yeah, I was actually, I feel lucky again to have thought of that name, because afterwards I was like, wow, man, that is a cool name.
It's brilliant. I'm telling you, the kinetic element to it, the ever searching, it's perfect, and exactly what you said. You could do it in any number of ways. Now, something to the way that you said about marrying the phenomena with science. I mean, I agree with this. This is a stance I've taken on the show the entire time. Brent Rains, actually, and then a guy named Bob Davis. So when I had Bob Davis on, they're both experiencers. They're both very deep into the phenomena. Bob Davis is a neuroscientist, so he's got that doctorate background and all of that, and he looks at it scientifically. They all hooked up. I'm going to get you hooked up with all these people off air. So they all hooked up with these ladies named Lynn Miller and Barbara Mango, and they wrote a book called Convergence, and all of them are in this book, and that's what they do. They were part of the Edgar Mitchell Foundation. And what they did is that they went in and they looked at the phenomenon from a very scientific approach. And that's how all of them met. That's how all of them got together. And so this is the point. I have been engaged in that part of the phenomena for serious lately. It's been something that I think is the next step to it, just like you. And just like you, I've got the idea that we don't know what the hell the phenomena is. So that leads me to my next question. I know you don't plant your flag personally, but if you have a favorite, like a favorite idea, is it any of the ideas for what the phenomena is? What is yours?
If I had a favorite where I'm like, okay, I think that's the coolest.
Yeah.
Would have to be extra dimensional.
Yeah, right.
Just because I don't know what that means. No, I mean, you know, I'll actually say this in one of my experiences early on in 2007. The part of the telepathic lock-on or download I got, they told me that they were extraterrestrial, right? I thought they did. So, but the more I examine that, the more I'm thinking, it was symbolic. Like they were saying something like that, so I would understand kind of the process of what's going on. Because I've really looked into the idea of using like a Buddhist type self-investigation method on contact, which it cannot, it's not always comfortable to do that because you're questioning your own ideas and things like that, and your own experiences. And I can't say that it's even one phenomenon per se. I think that we're probably dealing with several phenomena, but we use the term phenomenon to point to kind of everything that connects to the UFO phenomenon. And I like that. I put it in the name of my my channel and project. So I do think that, like, the extraterrestrial hypothesis, I see that as the most plausible, just because of the huge, vast amount of space that's out there, and there's got to be a civilization out there that's like 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 years more advanced than us in our own, Milky Way galaxy. And if they're that advanced, they can probably reach us or observe us. And the interdimensional thing, kind of brings up all these questions, where they just kind of have to change their frequency and boom, they're kind of in our dimension. So I think they're all plausible. But my favorite, I think, is extra dimensional.
Extra dimensional is really cool. A guy named Paul Askoff, he's under Philip Mantle's Flying Disc Press, man. Another dude, you've got to talk to this guy. His thing is the interdimensional thing, but it ties all of it together. It shows Bigfoot, any cryptid you could think of, mermaids, all that stuff, fae folk, UFOs, all of it. Everything is tied into one bubble that it's just, yes, out of phase from this dimension. And therefore, they can, of course, be transient in this dimension. And then he breaks down all kinds of ideas. That it's just electromagnetic phenomena, which can hijack your memory. It can erase you. They only let you remember what they want you to remember, which leads me to my next question. So let's talk about your contacts, if you don't mind. I'm curious to know, you mentioned transformative earlier. So what was the most transformative experience you had?
the most. I mean, they're all transformative in their own way. And I'm talking about the kind of bigger events, like the high level contact events I had, because, doing CE5, I've done CE5s where there were true unknowns or like a true anomaly, not something that's questionable, hundreds and hundreds of times. But there were several that were like majorly transformative. And the first kind of set of events, because I think they're all connected, was in 2007, and that was a whole series of events. It started. I don't know if have you ever heard me tell the story about the Dreamtime contact one?
Yes. Yeah. But go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say it started with that, and then I had something akin to a near-death experience. It wasn't a true near-death experience. It was a trauma-induced out-of-body experience. And then the day after that, I had another like experience, which was a telepathic lock-on, and I was told to come out of my house, and I had this download, and there was this craft there, and that's the one where they said, or they communicated in a way that said that they were extraterrestrials. But again, I kind of question that's actually what they were trying to literally say. And that was like a whole set of events. So, I mean, I can go into that if you like, but that's like a whole story. But then, that's what led me to CE5. And I actually had a CE5 event. It was I'm trying to think if it was in 2010 or 2011. I actually wrote, I wrote this whole thing down because it was insane. But it was somebody else's first CE5, and I was at this point doing CE5 for a few years, probably more than I should have. I was, at that point I was doing it daily, and I was doing meditation for hours a day and stuff like that.
You get obsessed.
Because, I had those other experiences and I was having results. So it's kind of like, okay.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could do anything else. If you can contact like that at will, or, do a certain standards of meditation practice or anything like that, or just staying vigilant on it. I would do it all the time. Sure.
Yeah. And then, so in 2010 or 2011, I had this outstanding event, which I think was the most visually aesthetic. So as far as visuals, that one was the craziest, but also, it was, there was so much going on that I was thinking, I'll go through that one really quick because it kind of gets on to the point of what I was saying. So it was somebody in my family's, first CE5. They knew I was into it. And they were interested, and they said, "Hey, do you want to do your CE5?" So I said, "Yeah, sure." And I said, "Listen, don't expect anything. It's your first time doing it, and just don't have expectations. We'll look at this as a practice." And they're like, "Okay, sure." And they had been somewhat familiar with meditation and kind of metaphysics because of somebody that they knew, so they were partially involved in that a little bit, just very mildly. Okay, so we go do the a 20-minute CE5 meditations, literally a 20-minute CE5 guided meditation by Stephen Greer. And back then I actually used those more. So we did the thing, and again, so it's easy for them to kind of a newcomer to follow along using that rather than me say, like, hey, do this and this. It's a whole guided process so they can go through it. So we did that, and we finished, and I'm opening the door to the room we were in, and my other family members were in the living room. They had the lights off because they were watching a movie, and it's about 9 p.m. or between 9 and 9:30 p.m. And they're like, somebody was taking pictures outside. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said there's lights. There's someone's taking pictures with a flash camera, and when they're saying that, I see the whole room light up, and it looks like if I didn't know better, I'd say it's lightning from outside. So I instantly got excited because that's something you see in the field with field work sometimes, where for no reason the entire area lights up, and right after that activity starts. So I instantly kind of had the idea. I was like, holy crap, maybe this, it's going on. The contact is going on now. So I'm running outside my house. I grab my laser, which I don't advise people use for safety reasons. But
disclaimer. Yeah.
So I get outside, and there's these two, craft. They kind of look almost like satellites, but a little bigger. And they're like this in the sky, and one of them flashes, and then the other flashes. So I'm like, holy crap, that's it. Oh,